Oy vey, it's about fucking time, isn't it? Jesus Christ, when was the last time we played a Sonic game on this channel? Like, at least 2 years ago, it feels like. Probably not that long ago, but it definitely feels like it's been at least a couple forevers. Hello everyone and welcome to the Sonic CD playthrough with your host Wilder Richards from DaGameTrain. So this is a fresh install of the Steam version of the game, and well, it's about as good as it gets. It doesn't have any of the problems that the original version had, and nothing particularly odd that any other version would have. Not that I'm aware of any other versions. I think there was something, but I can't remember anything about it. One thing is certain, this game is a bit unusual because not only does it have some unusual mechanics, it also has a rather interesting history. I don't know much about it, unfortunately, mostly because I didn't do any research, being the lazy bastard that I am, but I do remember a couple of things. But let's start the game first of all. We'll be running with the Japanese soundtrack because I personally think that it's the better choice. Let me crank up the volume a little bit because it's kinda quiet. Might have overdone it a bit with the volume here. There we go, that's a bit more like it. So yeah, as you can see, completely fresh, haven't done anything at all with this shit. If this isn't a single reason why you bothered getting a Sega CD back in the days, I don't know why the hell you bothered getting it in the first place. Yeah. Well, that was fun, kind of nostalgic, even though I've never actually owned this or the Sega CD. Not that I can remember. So this game, for the most part, is... That was odd. This game is, for the most part, the same old spiel as the previous two games that we played on the channel. The only real difference is that it has differences in its map layout, let's call it like that. You can say level layout as well, but map sounds more closer to what I expect to use. Yeah, whatever. It just sounds better to me. And also, there are some slight new mechanics. The one in particular that matters, and the one that probably never comes back in any other game out there, is time traveling. It's a bit interesting. So you have this here sign. You can touch it if you want to, and depending on what it says, you can either go to the past or to the future. The only thing you need to do is touch a sign that goes to your desired period of time, and then gain enough speed and maintain it. Once you've done it right, and I think we can show it off just for this one instance. Once you've done it right, it's only a matter of oh, I guess I fucked it up now. Well, once you do it right, you will get an animation showing you traveling to the next time period, and then the level layout, the map layout if you will change a little bit. I'll try to show it off to the best of my ability, but do keep in mind that for my personal preference I will be going after these special stages here, which are unique, or at least used to be unique to this game and this game only. Ever since Sonic Mania came out, it no longer is the case. Sonic Mania has taken some inspiration out of these. What you want to do here is just destroy all UFOs. Some will give you extra time, some will give you rings, but it doesn't matter. You gotta break them all down to get these shinies. No, they're not Chaos Emeralds, don't get excited. None of that shit is here. It's a time stone. Collect all of them and you are guaranteed a good ending, which will tap into your inner hippie power. You'll see what I mean when they get to it. So Sega CD, well, that was a console. It was a thing that existed back when most of us were still kids. I know I was definitely still a kid when it was around, maybe no older than 5 years. And to be honest, it wasn't that spectacular now that I know more about it. I'm not entirely sure what its purpose in life was supposed to be. It had more colors, it had full motion video support, and a few other things. It also took advantage of a newly emerging technology, as weird as it sounds, the compact disc. Yeah, the CD! Remember that shit? Back then it was still relatively new. God, that makes me feel old. And there's hardly a damn thing that makes me feel old. Maybe because I'm not, you know, that particularly nostalgic about old tech. I didn't really get to experience the craze of new tech emerging almost constantly. Must have been a very exciting time, all things considered. But yeah, I missed out on most of that fun time. Oh well, that doesn't matter, because now, thanks to the wonders of YouTube, I can catch up. To a certain degree. So traveling to different time zones isn't just for shits and giggles. The layout changes depending on your period of time. In the past, levels tend to be easier with less enemies. However, the enemies are usually in good shape. This matters because in the future, the enemies tend to be more numerous but in worse shape. And if they're in worse shape, they usually don't have any means of defending themselves besides you running into them like a doofus. In addition, you will only find this device here in the past. It's a robot generator. If you blow it up, it'll guarantee a good future for this stage only. To guarantee yourself a good ending, you need to guarantee the good ending for literally all of the stages. And well, if you want to have a more challenging time, you can definitely do it the way of the robot generators. I don't see any problem with that. However, if you feel like just getting the ending instead of playing on hard mode, you can simply just go for the special stages, collect 50 rings and you're good to go. Just don't fuck up. You'll know that you got a good future if you get this message to pop up. If you didn't get it, well, that's okay. If you can still get the time stones, you're still good to go. Because they work retroactively. All of the stages you missed out on will still count as having a good future once you collect that last stone. Convenient. I know one particular purple alien bastard who will probably love these kind of stones, but let's not talk about him. I didn't see that movie. And I probably never will. I don't particularly care about him. Well, that was easy. When these stages become more difficult, I'll be able to talk more about their particular features. For the time being, we got 2 stones. I think it's 2 out of 7. Not entirely sure. I don't remember all these things. That's fine, I'm here to chill out and have some good time. This is what a bad future looks like. It tends to have a more rockin' tune, I suppose, I don't know. It depends entirely on your perspective. Also tends to look more bleak and industrial. God damn it. But it doesn't matter what kind of future you get, because the boss fight will always be the same. The only thing that changes is how it looks like. If you want to completely fuck this boss over, just stand all the way at the right and wait for him to show up then. Because the only thing that this boss has going for him are the bumper shields. You hit him 3 times and he's gone. That's another interesting feature about this game. It's not about hitting Robotnik 8 times specifically. It's about destroying the machine, and that can take multiple hits, ranging from as little as 3 to as many as, I guess, 8. I didn't really count. This game is also one of the first to feature a bit of voice acting. There's like exactly 2 lines of dialogue that exist in here. We've heard the first one twice already, but there is another one where Sonic just says, "I'm out of here," after waiting a specific amount of time, doing absolutely nothing. I think it's about 3 minutes or so. If you like not losing games, that's probably something you don't want to do though, because as soon as that happens, you get an instantaneous game over, because he literally leaves the fucking world. That's pretty funny, all things considered. But depending on what kind of version you're playing, I mean, if it's relevant in your case. In this case, not particularly, because all of the versions are, well, we can say combined, because the only differences that I am aware of is the soundtrack. If you're playing the American version of the original title, when you get a game over, you get a kind of a creepy music playing. Whereas here, you just get some kind of silly shit. Here being the Japanese version, that is. I guess the Japanese were not taking this nearly as seriously as the Americans back then, which is understandable. I mean, if you bother to take a look at all the differences between the Japanese and the American versions of Sonic games, you'll notice that Americans were very interested in keeping Sonic edgy. Which is weird, but hey, if you feel like it. So yeah, about the Sega CD, it's a weird console, because it seemed to have no real purpose in life. Maybe there is one and I'm just not seeing it. If that's the case, please enlighten me, because I have literally no idea. But it did introduce some things which were decent and others that weren't. For example, it introduced CD audio quality. CD quality audio, I should probably phrase it like that. Big difference, I suppose. And that basically means better sounding music, straight on your disc. The problem with that is that it wasn't really possible to make it seamlessly loop, because the music would have to be constantly loaded off of the disc. And as we all know, music being loaded off of a disc, a CD no less back then, was not all that convenient. It was good for general purpose, but for games which you would like the music to be constantly looping for, not particularly, because there would be spots where the music stops and then it has to restart. Therefore it made more sense to make longer tracks instead. I think this version here, being the remake made by, I think it was Christian Whitehead, that was his name, right? Let me look at the intro. Yep, I think that was him. I'll know better when I'm editing. Yeah, this is the remake version of Christian Whitehead, and I think it already has the looping, the seamless loop introduced in the soundtrack, so that's not an issue that's present anymore. CDs introduced their own kind of problems. The main problem being that it's no longer the data is no longer loaded the exact same way as it was before. When you had a cartridge, it was like inserting a piece of the console back into the console. There would be a physical connection between all of the machinery. Let's call it like that, because really, who gives a shit about the nomenclature right now? I'm just doing a special stage. And it would be able to read the data, not instantaneously, but very quickly. Pretty much seamless speeds. You wouldn't be able to tell when it's actually loading, unless the developers fucked something up real hard and made it happen like that. See the Batman Forever SNES game? That's a cartridge game and it has loading screens. How the fuck does that even happen? But with CDs, you would have to load the disc data into the console. It would need to read the disc, because the disc didn't physically connect with anything. It was inserted into a specialized tray, and then a laser would scan the data off of the disc and translate it into machine language. Well, that's my take on it, at least. I'm pretty sure that on some instances I was wrong about my description there, but please bear with me. I'm still learning how to be a computer technician. I'm actually studying for this shit. Gonna try the CompTIA A+ exam soon. Wish me luck. The Sega CD also introduced one of my least favorite genres of game, movie. I don't know about you, but I am not a fan of movie games. And what I mean by movie games are basically games that are at least over 50% movie or cutscene or just story. This can involve a lot of different kind of games, but the most notable one from the Sega CD would probably be Night Trap, because of all the controversy that it generated on its own. I think it was directly responsible, along with Mortal Kombat at some point or another, for the creation of ESRB and other game rating agencies, which mean absolutely nothing in terms of getting people to buy the right thing for their kids, because kids don't really care if the game is supposed to be for adults only. They just want to play the fucking game. And damn right they wanna. Besides, it's the best experiences you're gonna have as a kid, playing a game that was clearly out of your league. Like being like 6 or 7 years old playing Turok 2 for the first time. Now that's a fun experience, isn't it? Getting jumped from dark corners by all those fucking dinosaur bastards. Yeah, that's exciting stuff right there. Leaves a permanent scar for your convenience. Hey, I can walk through this wall. Whatever for, that's not progress. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the Sega CD. I have seen it in person, because for some reason it was in our house. However, we never had any games for it, and we just didn't use it. I don't know how we even acquired it. And at this point in time, I don't think it's even worth asking my parents about it. I don't think they will remember. They're not particularly interested in video games to begin with, so asking them questions like, how'd you get across this kind of uncommon add-on for an already uncommon console in Eastern Europe is kind of pointless. But let's talk about the game for now. Special stages. There are certain mechanics involved here. For example, you can see these chompy tiles, there are some arrow tiles, there are some fan tiles, and of course, your favorite thing, water. You love water, don't you? Of course you do. Everybody does, except no! You don't like water, not in this game. Water in this game is the worst thing you can touch because it very rapidly drains your timer. So be careful. Do not touch water under any circumstances. Bumpers naturally bump you around, just like in any other game. The chompy tiles are there to be traps. They're there to steal your rings, slow you down, and I wouldn't be surprised if they also take away some of your timer. But I'm not aware of that, so don't quote me on that. The red circle tiles are springs. They're there to launch you really high up, and they can be useful for crossing large pools of water or just large areas of hazards. The same goes for the fans, though they don't launch you nearly as high. Plus, the speed at which you are launched is slower, which can be very useful when you're trying to precision aim for that one particular UFO you're trying to knock out. All of that really doesn't matter, as long as you make sure to stay out of the water. That water is gonna drain a fuckload of your time in mere moments. You could easily lose a stage having a full timer within just a matter of maybe 2 or 3 seconds. So for your own sake and for your own convenience, don't touch water at any point in time. And then there's the boss fights. As you can see, the boss fights are very non-traditional. Whereas in the previous 2 games it was more about hitting the bastards 8 times or more, depending on how far in the game you were. This is more about getting close enough. The first boss, as we've seen... Wow, what the fuck was that? As we've seen in the first boss fight, the matter of hitting Robotnik was more about getting around his bumper shields. In this boss fight, it was a matter of getting past the pinball trap. It can be done, but if you're not too good at this kind of stuff, it can take you longer or shorter. It's kind of luck based, I find.